An applause for Oliver Harder, please.
Yeah, hi everybody, and thanks for joining my session on hacking TYPO3. For that, I have given that talk already at the TYPO3 camp in Dresden this year. So if you have probably watched that on YouTube, it's similar, but it's not the same. So I have some new vulnerabilities that we fixed, and yeah, I'm gonna demonstrate that. So basically about me, my name is Oliver Harder. I'm basically doing research and development. I'm leading the security team since this year, since 2019. I'm part-time employed at the TYPO3 GmbH, and also I'm part-time employed as a freelance software engineer because I think it's important to keep up with recent projects and see how TYPO3 is used in a real-life scenario. So you can contact me on Twitter or follow me on Twitter, ohader. So yeah, let's get in contact. So basically, this is kind of a disclaimer. So I know that this here is video recorded and probably streamed to the outside world. And I'm going to show some real vulnerabilities of TYPO3. So how you can hack TYPO3 and get access to the backend or can execute code on TYPO3. So severe vulnerabilities. And the thing is that hackers probably knew already. So therefore, it's not a problem not showing that. But I just wanted to outline why I'm going to do that. Yeah. So my point here is for you to make it understandable and also create kind of an awareness that security is important and that security is not just something that you read and then you say, okay, I'm not affected, because I want to demonstrate and I want to show you that probably everybody is affected. So security is a very severe topic. Basically, in case you identify yourself in somehow a scenario that might not be secure or vulnerable in a way, then please report back to security@typo3.org. So I'm going to come to that back later when I'm trying to talk about the security team as well. Okay, here are some web application security basics. I think it's important to see what we are talking about. So this thing is called the CIA Triad. So it's not related to some US agency, but it's the abbreviation of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So confident information is basically everything that is not intended to a target audience that does not have permission to see it. So that might be sensitive data like passwords, that might be documents. So if you, for instance, think about WikiLeaks, so like documents that are kind of confidential, then this is the part that is considered confidential. The integrity part is where information, important information, gets manipulated and has a severe impact. So like, for instance, if you run a government website on TYPO3 or Drupal or whatever system is being used for that, then changing information on that website, so like you have to pay whatever in order to get something, and that is an official statement. If that information gets compromised, then you have a problem, or citizens have a problem, because there's an impact. And the availability addresses basically a system is not being available or cannot be accessed in a certain way. So for instance, get away from websites, but think about a bank machine, cash machine, yeah? So you need money because you want to buy something, but the cash machine refused to work because of a, I don't know, attack or a bug, a failure, whatever. So you're not capable of getting the money that you need. So this is also kind of a denial of service. And here's some examples, just to make sure that we are talking about the same thing. So confidential information is leaked to the public. So what you can see here is basically a list of passwords, of password hashes, and the usernames to that. That is basically not intended for a public audience. So that should stay internal. Yeah, nobody should ever see that. The next thing is, this is a maybe manipulated website. So imagine that there's the WordPress website, and if you go to the front page, it says that now the TYPO3 Core Team is running WordPress development. Of course, that does not make much sense, but if people read that and people are trying to retweet that and put that to the world, that it has an impact. And last but not least, yeah, you figured that the site cannot be reached, and if you have a high target website, then basically that also is a problem. So it's basically important to mention these things because we are trying, or in security build, we are going to focus on these three parts and analyze how severe a security vulnerability is going to be handled and what we are going to do as countermeasure and in announcing these things and how fast we have to react. What we see here is the Open Web Application Security project, OWASP, and they provide a list with the best hacking scenarios, so the top 10 of vulnerabilities in web application environments. And basically you see that there are a lot of things, and here you see these markers, and if you focus to the blue, orange and green markers, then you will identify where things are affected. So if you look to the orange markers, then you see basically TYPO3 was affected by the XML access, broken access control, security misconfiguration. A very popular thing is cross-site scripting, so I'm going to show you some examples on cross-site scripting, and insecurity serialization. So what I show with that graph is that these are the top 10, and the PHP world or TYPO3 is affected by all of them. So that means we have to take kind of an action here. Okay, and this slide basically is confusing for you. And that's also the point, because an attack is not really like you execute a command and then you can directly shut down the website. So you don't have success with that, basically in all security environments. But you create your attack and then you discover a weakness and then you get control over some other component that is hidden in a website. So it's always a chain through the system. And hackers carefully analyze how they can get from a simple HTTP request, probably showing images, to getting access to the backend and creating a backend user. So it's always that kind of chain, and that takes time in order to analyze that and to forge these kind of security attacks and attack vectors. Okay, everything that I'm going to show here is available on GitHub. So at my account, ohaider, so I will post that later on Twitter as well. There's the TYPO3 version 9 hacking playground, and you can download that. And basically, it's using a DDEV Docker environment, so you can shut or start that virtual machine on your local environment. Basically it's a web server, has MySQL and these kind of things. And also I used a recent TYPO3 version, so it's TYPO3 version 9.58. And I removed the security fixes, so in order to have that vulnerable again, So you just have to keep that in mind. So it's a vulnerable version. Don't use that on a production website, but it's a good start to play around with these things and to analyze these things. Because for me personally, hacking and security topics is basically about learning and understanding. So if you understand how an attack works, then you can prevent these kind of attacks. So that's important. Hacking is always learning. Okay, the first thing I want to show you is session hijacking, thanks to Crosssite scripting. And this thing was released and fixed in 2018. So when you see the slides later on Twitter, you can click on these things and you get a description. So that's what we provide and publish whenever we do a security release. Because it's important to inform the people that are using TYPO3. And on top of that, there's the common vulnerability scoring system of version 3, sorry, and you basically see a number, so the overall scoring. So here it's 4.7, which says it's kind of a medium severity. So that range goes from 0 to 10, you see that, and it's just for you to see how we initially thought how severe that problem is. Getting that standalone, because we just see it as the cross-site scripting issue. And then in the end, probably you will realize, okay, actually, what can I do with that? So it says medium, but I'm going to show you how you can get a backend admin account, for instance. So basically, everything could be critical in the end. So don't let you trick by these numbers, by low or medium, because you should take everything that is related to security very serious. Okay, so basically here's the thing, what happens, and yeah, that's for the slides. But I think it's cool to have a presentation on that and to do that live. I thought about recording that, but that would be kind of boring, right? You want to see how that works and how that feels. And also the chances are good that I mess up the things and show some stuff. So that's the fun part of that. All right, so here I have two browser windows. You have just to, or I have to realize that the one that is in gray is a regular user that does not have backend or admin access to the backend. And then there's the dark one, which is the admin account, yeah? So just reload. So the DDEV server is running in the background. It's a bit slow because I enabled Xdebug. However, that should be working. So the thing here is that now I'm logged in as an admin user. Make it a little bit bigger. And I'm entering the install tool right now. I'm going to show that. So here we have the application tab, and I think I can zoom in a little bit here as well. And then you see that a couple of cookies are created. So basically you all know cookies, and cookies are a good thing in order to define what session is being used. And what you can identify here is that basically most of these cookies, except the PHP session cookie, has the HTTP only flag. What does that mean? Yeah, I can basically just type in document cookie. And then I see, okay, that's the install tool cookie. So that's what I want to have. As an attacker, that's interesting, yeah, because I can retrieve that by JavaScript. So now I'm going to think further as an attacker, and let's find a way to inject JavaScript to some TYPO3 admin user. And that's where we get to the next part, or the next vulnerability that is being used in that case. So we have the cookie, and basically the next thing is that we have these YouTube and .vimeo files. So probably you know that, the media asset management, it's called like that. So you just use the ID of a YouTube video or Vimeo video, put that in a file, give it the file extension .vimeo.youtube, and then TYPO3 is capable of using that and linking directly to the according YouTube video. So that's pretty handy and a pretty cool feature. However, that file was not probably secured. So what was possible by using that file, so basically on top that's that .vimeo or .youtube file, instead of just using the identifier of a YouTube video, I also could use HTML or JavaScript. So that is basically what I'm doing here. I'm creating a new script tag that is loading some other JavaScript file, because I don't want to put everything in one file, yeah, so it's clean code. And I also created another file for that is located on my own machine. And that other file is basically also creating a callback. And I wanted to hide that in an image tag because it should not be that obvious that it's kind of an attack, that this is a hack. And I'm loading an image, which actually is not an image, so I can tell you that already. And I put the information that I find on the site being executed as an admin user to some other system. So it appears in some log file there, so a log file that I can control. And what we have here, the location, because probably I attacked multiple websites, and also the most interesting part here is to retrieve the cookie information. So I'm going to do that. Well, let's get back to the backend. Yeah, so this is the regular user account. As you can see, I don't have that many features in that scenario. There's a user folder. And yeah, basically that's the compromised file. So now it requires kind of social engineering. So basically I'm leaving the company but still have access to the backend. So yeah, I want to give some payback to the company, yeah, something like that. So I'm angry. So yeah, let's hack the admin user. And I know that the admin user is very responsive, so I send him an email and say, okay, my YouTube files are not working anymore. Could you please check that? And I know that the admin of that website is really responsive because he wants to help people not to fail and to do their work. So what that admin user is doing, he's going to that folder that I told him, and then he's going to open that file, and it says, do not click me YouTube, and he says, okay, let's check that. So there's the information tab, and then he's trying to identify what's going on, and then strange, a frame is loading, so somehow it does not really work out in a way. But in the background, if you go to the network tab, the thing is done already, yeah, because I have the information that I wanted to retrieve, that I wanted to have. And here in this scenario, it's kind of, yeah, it's not realistic because I work on the same host, but in a real scenario that would be delivered to some other website. Yeah, some website that you can register for free and you get the information in the log files. So here, these are my logger scripts, and this is the log. And as you can see, that should be right now. Oh, I have to, running out of time already. Yeah, great. So here, that is the information that I retrieved. So that is the website, record info, and here we get the cookie information. And the most interesting part here is the TYPO3 install tool cookie. Perfect. So what can I do with that right now? I can take over the session. So I don't have access here on that website to the install tool. So install.php. Does not work. Oh, I forgot one important part here, I think. Let's see. So here we have the install tool cookie that has been created. I use the token that I retrieved by using Crosssite scripting. I saved the cookie. Reload. Something is wrong with the mic somehow. Oh. Anyway, as you can see, I just used the cookie information, and now I have access to the install tool. So, of course, that requires that the other admin user was using the admin interface and the install tool interface. But I just wanted to show you how easy that is, yeah, to retrieve that information. And I hear a lot of people saying, yeah, well, it's just a cross-site scripting. So what can you do with that? You can inject some script, but yeah, who cares? You can take over sessions, you can control these sessions. And tomorrow I'm going to have a kind of a security workshop, and probably some of you know already the browser exploitation framework, which offers a lot of more possibilities. So you can kind of remote control the browser that is being used. So if you are interested in that, I invite you to join my session tomorrow. Okay, first way to attack a website and get into the details of the admin tool and clear caches, install extensions, so you have full control over the website. So that's basically just for documentation here in the slides. The next part is about remote code execution thanks to insecure deserialization. So who of you does know how insecure deserialization works? So do you know how that works, unserialized and unsecure deserialization? So okay, so that's good because then I can show that, and I have a slide for that. Yes, so here we have a very basic class. It's called worker class. It has some private property. It's called data. It has a constructor. That's cool. But the interesting part right now is that we have a wake up call and a destruct call. And these methods are basically echoing out what is written to the data property. And also, these information are executed when the PHP process ends, then the destruct is called, or when you unserialize data, then the wake-up call is called. So, and the next thing is that I basically create a new instance of worker with data hello world, and then I serialize that. So that's possible in PHP. So everybody could make use of that, and TYPO3 also is using these kind of serialization techniques. That's, by the way, not only a PHP issue. So, for instance, also Java has serialization and deserialization. So that's a commonly known scenario in programming languages. And what you get as a serialized string, as a representation of the object that you created, is it's like the worker class, and here you have data, which is a string of length 12, and it contains hello world. Perfect. Now let's consider that somebody is using unserialized on some user-submitted content, so that you have a GET request that contains these serialized parts, which are not further protected. So again, we have that string, and here I modified the hello world part by website. So it's not doing any harm to the website right now, but you can imagine that if I can control that string, I can do things. Yeah. And basically, what would you expect if I execute that unserialize? It should output by website twice. So that happens automatically when I call that unserialized call. So that's basically insecure deserialization. I can create objects by that serialization techniques, because usually we do that for arrays and strings and numbers, but not in most cases for objects or classes. So we had a vulnerability that was fixed in the last release in June this year. And that vulnerability was discovered by a company which is called Ripstech. It's located in in Bochum, in Germany. And Ripstech has a really great tool. It's the Rips technology scanner, which is capable of analyzing PHP files and Java files and tries to identify these kinds of security vulnerabilities. And what they did, they executed their scanner on our TYPO3 core. And they identified something that they analyzed further, and bingo, they found that insecure deserialization. So if you want to know more about that, probably you want to click to the blog. Besides that, I'm going to show you how that works. Okay, so in the backend, so that's the attack vector. In the backend, there is a property, a get variable, or even a post variable that is called override values for a table, and then there's the localization, the difference of localization source, which contains some serialized payload and content that is used in the TYPO3 backend. Okay, so now that we know that there's kind of a unserialization possibility, we need to find an attack vector, because we do not just simply want to output a hello world or goodbye website. We want to execute code, actually. And as an attacker, as a hacker, we have to, or I have to identify a possibility that I can use. And as I showed you earlier, we are searching for destruct or wake up calls. And perfect, there's a file which is called the file cookie jar. I will show that in more detail, which actually saves somehow a file name. So let's analyze that further. So basically, I create cookies, and these cookies are written to the file system. So what I did now is I'm carefully crafting my attack. So I'm just using the implementation of that file cookie jar, and I simulate a cookie that should be written to the website. So that's the supposed way to use that API. Yeah, writing cookies to the file system. It's used in session handling. Actually, it's not used in TYPO3, but we have that available because we require that composer package. So, but instead of writing some session variable here, some hash value, hey, why not using some PHP code in there? So let's try that out. And then serialize that and see what actually works. Then I have to handcraft the parameters that I want to use. So basically, what you see here is just building an URL that can be used in the TYPO3 backend. Yeah, it is showing an edit document controller. Yeah, I'm creating all these things, built the query part, and then I can directly execute that. So since I'm lazy, I created exactly that in source code, and also that is part of the GitHub repository. So we go with that file, security serialization, and so a couple of that. So basically that's the same. Okay. And no, there's a different one. Okay. On cookie jar. Okay. However, there's one thing that we need to copy from the backend. So finally, let's get back to the TYPO3 backend. So that's what we're talking about. So I'm just using a random site to open an edit view on that site or on that view, and it's like edit page congratulations. So that's exactly the part that I want to attack. However, TYPO3 has some kind of a cross-site request forgery protection, so I have to open that in a new tab. And if you have ever wondered about, so here, that's the token that protects from being called externally. However, in that regard, if I want to create the URL, I need that token. So I'm going to copy that token. Go to my console, and probably I should switch that a little bit. So there's the file in the hack folder. Source. All right, so I'm going to execute that, and yeah, I have to enter the. Actually, I should copy that token. Over again. So I have to paste that security token because I want to have a valid URL. So this is the URL that is being created. And if you're good in reading these kind of things, so somehow in here, this is the base 64 encoded attack vector, yeah, that shall be executed. And before we execute that, probably I should show you what we can do here. So that's actually the code that I'm loading, that I'm executing. Yeah, I can execute any kind of code. So I put that code because I want to clean code. Yeah, is always required, also as a hacker. Yeah, that's the code that I want to execute. So I'm require autoloader and these kind of things. I'm fetching a connection pool because I want to write a new backend user instance. Yeah, because I could also write different source code in here. I could put in a web shell and fully control the website. Right. So that's the code basically that I want to execute, and I'm just opening that one in a folder. So it says, sorry, you didn't have proper permission to perform this page. Okay, let's see whether that actually out. So let's see whether something has changed. So I use the find command file, and I want to see what has been changed during the last 2 minutes. Did not work that way, so that's my fault because it's supposed to be working. Anyway, we can use a different attack. So that was bad preparation on my side because what I forgot here is to give that unprivileged user the permission to modify languages. So I did not configure that properly in that scenario, so I have to change that in the hacking that you are using. So sorry for that. I will update that, and basically you can try that on your own. So what would have happened is that a new backend user should have been created. So it did not work in that scenario. I can show you that basically it would have been possible by copying that information and put it to the admin user that is logged in. So now you could say, okay, well, yeah, running that as an admin user, that's kind of strange. However, I just want to demonstrate that it's possible. So here we have 3 users. Copy paste that information and execute that as admin user. The admin user has access to the LTN diff source field, and of course my security token match. So I have to do that again and open that frame in a new tab. Do the thing that I just did again, copy the security token and have to regenerate that information, use that one, and then hopefully you believe that this is possible. That exploitation code. Okay. Yeah, anyway, so I'm not going to waste any time on that. So that's bad preparation. So that's my fault. Sorry for that. Because I have some other topics that I wanted to show here. Basically, a similar attack. So basically, you should have seen something like that. Execute the hack file, and then you get that new user that is being created out of nowhere just by placing a file on the system, and nobody really notices. So this is the second remote code execution. So yes, maybe 5 minutes, maybe that works out. Let's try it. So imagine there's a TYPO3 configuration file, local configuration, php.old on your web server, so who is working live on a web server in a shell and is copying files because you want to create backups, for instance, and you don't know how that works out. So that's a good way to create these kind of vulnerabilities. You copy a configuration file, put .backup or .old in the end, and then you forget to delete that from the website. Yeah. Then basically everybody can open that file, yeah, because hackers or scanning tools are searching for these kind of things on web servers automatically. So no human is behind that. And then you get some information. So basically, what do you think by having that information? Can somebody exploit that? So is there a possibility to exploit that? Maybe. That depends on how the database is configured and whether it can be accessed from the outside. Yeah. So here it's just the Docker example, and you can. However, if you scroll down a little bit, what do you think, or do you identify something here that is special? So that's a basic standard TYPO3 local configuration file. One. Encryption key. Okay, because why? Yeah, basically the name implies already encryption key. That's kind of encryption, has something to do with security. And tada, it's the encryption key. Because the encryption key is used in TYPO3 to generate HMACs, like signatures on payload. Yeah, and also the encryption key is used, for instance, to generate C hashes. Yeah, so everything that is kind of used as a signature over a given amount of parameters or arguments can be used or relies on the encryption key. And the attack basically looks like this, that we have the trusted properties in XSpace, which is using a HMAC to verify that these properties are valid. And then what we were looking for is that unserialized call here. Yeah. So if we manage to inject trusted properties that are valid and signed with a proper encryption key that we retrieved from a backup file, we can get access in the front end. So no backend user is required for that. So yeah, that's the HMAC check and configuration. However, I just want to show you how that attack basically works. So I'm calling a page that is using XSpace, of course, so that's my entry point. And then I use the trusted properties with a similar scenario and a similar payload that I tried to show you earlier. I raw URL encode that and execute it. So this is the thing that I would expect to be available. And of course, I have an example for that as well. And I really hope that this one, it works out. So encryption key, execute, insecure deserialization, cookie, and the file cookie jar. So that's basically the same attack. However, now I need the encryption key. I'm lazy because I downloaded that file already and using here the environment, so it's local configuration. use the encryption key. So that should be the real encryption key. So that's the file I downloaded. I get the encryption key, and now I'm going to create the payload. So it's that one. Yeah, the possible I, and I think I can execute that directly in a browser. I handed in the trusted properties, so that's the attack vector that I want to use here. Properties, so it says powerful form handling, and now let's check whether we have another backend user in our system. Perfect, it does not work. Well done. So I'm pretty sure I did that multiple times, and I don't know why it did not work out. So that's also a thing. If you see or complain whether I tell nonsense or whether that's true, that you should join the security workshop on Sunday morning, because then I hopefully can show that it really works. So you just have to believe me that it works. So we are not creating security bulletins and these kind of things out of nowhere. So there's a reason behind that. Actually, what I wanted to show with that is that when you are being hacked, so when you are affected from a security vulnerability, so basically your customers tell you that something is going wrong, information is manipulated or missing, and you find something that is suspicious in your log files. So basically what most people do is like, yeah, we removed everything and then we use the backup to restore that information. Yeah. And also restoring from an old backup means that basically the backup contains the compromised information already. Yeah? So whether you have a PHP or application-based security vulnerability, you really should be secure or safe that your backups are not compromised already. And basically then it stops. Yeah, backups are fine, it's working again. However, then the pain really starts, because you should really modify all private keys, all public keys that are involved in that regard. You have to modify the database credentials, because you do not know who is using that or has access to that. And also you have to modify the TYPO3 encryption key. And I guess that not all agencies or people are aware of that and are changing these kind of things, because it's work, it's really work to update all that information in order to be secure. Okay, there's one last thing. It's about flexibility. Yes, and this is a kind of a TYPO script example that occurs in several extensions and scenarios. So what it's basically doing, yeah, it's using the GP name, so you can use a name and get greeted on the website. I hope that works. So yeah, that's the front page of that hacking playground. And then I can add name, Oliver. And it says, "Hi Oliver, great you're back." Yeah, so that's perfect. I don't know why that is used, but really these kind of scenarios exist. And they are using TYPO script like that. So GP name is the part, and then it's going to be wrapped. And the interesting part is here, insert data. Actually compiles the information that is written in here. Yeah. So let's go further and see how that looks like, or what we can actually do with that. So short story out of that. Instead of Oliver, I could also use script alert cross-site scripting, or loading some JavaScript, whatever. So as I demonstrated to you in the beginning. Also, I could be using dbbe password, which is the backend user record with the UID 1. So I can retrieve that, and I can enumerate over all of these records that are stored in a database. Not only backend users, but also any other kind of data. What I really like is file contents. You can retrieve sensitive information by just iterating 1, 2, 3 and check which file is available. You can retrieve and download that information. And also thing is the getenv. So I guess a couple of you are using .env files for your deployments. Yeah? So everything you put in there in a .env file would be available to the environment. And I would check, for instance, getenv, TYPO3, DB, whatever. Yeah. So let's try that. I need somehow the feeling of success here. It's easy to mess things up. So it's what was it? DB. There's one, and I want to retrieve the name. So that's the admin user. Yeah, it works. Isn't that cool? And also, yeah, of course, I get the password hash. And here also you can see how important it is to use a strong hashing mechanisms for these kind of things. Just get signal that we only have 5 minutes. So do you have questions already at this point? Otherwise, I'm just going to. Are there questions already right now? Or should I continue for the... Yeah, okay. So that was flexibility number 1. Flexibility number 2 is also a remote code execution using page tsconfig. So there is probably that field that you know in the page properties. So you can define tsconfig. A regular user can use that field in order to define somehow application settings show, yeah, and then it's used somehow in the backend. It's a great and flexible functionality that you can enable for your editors, non-admin users. So who is capable of how TypoScript works? Because tsconfig is also TypoScript. So have you heard about something that is called a condition? Yeah, do you know that? And probably you also know that conditions allow user functions and user callbacks. Okay, why shouldn't we just use something like that? User func, file put contents, we call the file hack PHP, and then use PHP info. So basically that also should work. So 3 minutes, I hope that works, that should work, okay. No, that was the right view already. Okay. So resources. So it's user func file put contents. Carefully. Typing the end here. So file put contents hack. Whatever. Yeah. Okay, I saved that, and then the next thing is just the next one that clicks on a page tree, hopefully gets that information or gets that code to be executed. Okay, now it works. So -mmin -1 shows the files that have been modified during the last 1 minute. And yeah, basically if I open that file, it's here, hack. Oh, actually, my other attacks worked. I was just confused by the error message that it did not work, but yeah, this would have been the file. Okay, so that's the public TYPO3 hack. So that's in a different folder. So public type hack, that was the XBase hack, and now we have to look up the hack that I just executed. That's whatever. So I can place any PHP code in here. Yes, so 1 minute to go. Yes, the security team basically needs you because we always require a lot of people, and we have some plans in order to get TYPO3 even more secure. So as I showed the RIP scanner earlier, an automated testing tool, and we want to use that for the TYPO3 Core. And if that works well, we also would like, so we're just planning, it's no guarantee on that, we also would like to use that for extensions. And also we would extend the coverage not only for TR extensions, but also for GitHub extensions, because that's packages. And basically, we're talking about packages nowadays, and only a few people are downloading zip files from the TR and using that. If you want to know more, tomorrow morning, on Sunday morning, there's the security workshop. You're invited to join. You said there are no questions, and therefore, thank you, and you have the last 10 seconds. Thank you.